Remember this.
My word is my bond.
On immigration, Labor lies big.
When it comes to migration numbers, we have cut the net migration figures by over 40% in a year. The number of people arriving now is lower than it was under the coalition.
Well, the reality is it has never been higher in Australian history. Under Albanese, years and years of record high immigration to this country. And all these people, too many too quickly, is what's fueling cost of living pressures and shutting young Australians out of the housing market. Remember this, from the last man who actually managed to curb government waste and pay off debt.
I started talking about intergenerational equity 20 years ago, and it was all about restricting your spending so you didn't need higher taxes. That's what they should have been doing.
Tonight, when the Treasurer gets to his feet and tries to make you believe that there was no other option than to break their promise not to touch property taxes, remember this. For this Prime Minister, for this Treasurer, breaking promises is not new. It's no once off. Indeed, lying their way to an election win is what Labor does best.
Voters can expect that there'll be a budget that's consistent with Labor values.
Absolutely. Because Labor values lying is the Labor way.
Picture this. You ask someone a direct question. They look you dead in the eye, say absolutely not, repeat it on television for good measure, and then do the exact opposite the moment nobody's watching anymore. That's not a hypothetical. That's Australian politics in 2026. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Australian Daily Insider, where today we're talking about promises that had a suspiciously short shelf life. Let's start with the big one, negative gearing and capital gains tax.
And yet after 4 years in office, Australians know this bloke couldn't lie straight in bed. Tonight, when the Treasurer gets to his feet, and as I said, just over an hour, big changes will be made to the rules around investment properties in this country. Rules that you rejected at the 2016 and 2019 elections. Rules that the Prime Minister himself personally has ruled out. This was September 2024 with my colleague, Peta.
Will you guarantee that you won't touch negative gearing and capital gains tax concessions?
Well, we have no plans to touch or change negative gearing.
If we go to the current issue of negative gearing capital gains tax, might you change
course? Well, it's not a current issue.
Even though it certainly is.
No,
it's on the front page of every paper at the moment.
Well, if you ask the same question, Peter, you get the same answer.
Well, I'm not getting a response to it. So can I ask again, could those plans change?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're not listening, Peter. You've already asked it, and I've already answered it.
Yeah, but I'm asking, you said no plans, but could plans change?
Well, Peter, if you want to keep interrupting me, then this won't be, we won't get anywhere.
And then this, during last May's election campaign, in the televised debate on Channel 7.
Negative gearing is off the table.
Yeah, it's off the table.
During the election campaign, the line from Albanese was crystal clear, repeated in interviews and televised debates. Negative gearing is off the table. Not under review, not we'll see, off the table. Voters heard that, and for plenty of them, it was a deciding factor at the ballot box. Fast forward to the post-election budget, and suddenly changes to investment property rules are back on the menu. The very same reforms that got knocked back at the 2016 and 2019 elections, because voters didn't want them then either. So here's the question worth sitting with. If a policy gets rejected twice at the ballot box, and you promise not to touch it a third time, what do you call it when you do it anyway, right after voters can't do anything about it? Because changed my mind doesn't quite cover it. And look, this isn't a one-off slip. Once you start pulling this thread, it keeps unraveling. Remember the $275 promise?
How hard is it? Well, who can be surprised because this bloke has form.
Reducing power prices by $275.
$275 a year.
$275.
$275.
$275 a year.
That promise repeated over 90 times. And the reality? Well, electricity is up 32%, gas is up 34%. And this too, just last year, in his budget speech from the Treasurer.
Speaker, our economy is turning the corner. Inflation is down, incomes are rising, unemployment is low, interest rates are coming down, debt is down, and growth is picking up momentum.
Yet the truth is, inflation is not down, it is up.
Inflation in Australia was already too high before the recent conflict in the Middle East began. We've already seen expectations for inflation over the next year or so increase, and we need to ensure that this does not lead to higher inflation expectations over the longer term.
And despite what Jim Chalmers said, incomes are not rising. The fact is that since the Albanese government was elected in 2022, real wages have fallen 2%. And for working families, real wages have fallen by about 9%.
Power prices would drop by $275 a year, a figure repeated so many times it practically became a jingle. Instead, electricity prices climbed 32%, gas jumped 34%. That's not a rounding error, that's the exact opposite direction of the promise. Then there's the cost of living pledge. No family worse off, almost all families better off. Meanwhile, real wages have fallen. Working families reportedly down around 9%, inflation up, and the average mortgage holder now paying tens of thousands more in annual interest than when this government took office. If that's better off, I'd hate to see what worse what's like. Here's a pattern starting to form, right? Say the reassuring thing during the campaign, quietly pivot once the votes are counted. It's like ordering a salad at a restaurant and watching the waiter bring out a burger, then telling you the salad was always going to be a burger, you just misheard. Let's talk foreign policy for a second, because this one's a genuine head-scratcher. Before the election, Labour's own national secretary stated flatly that support for Israel would never change.
What actions has your government taken to guarantee the safety of Australians if these people return?
Go to the Prime Minister.
Those reports are not accurate. We are not repatriating these people.
Order.
We have made it clear.
We have not provided any assistance, nor were we involved in those actions of the Syrian government. We've provided no assistance for these people. We're not repatriating them.
Well, you gave them 34 passports at the start of the year. And here they are now, back in Australia, eligible for all manner of taxpayer welfare and support. Before they were elected, Labor promised that they would remain strong supporters of the State of Israel. Said Labor's National Secretary, Paul Erickson, Labor is a strong supporter of the State of Israel. That will never change. Labor will not seek to play domestic politics with Australia's foreign relations. And yet, once safely elected, we got this from Labor.
Australia will recognise the state of Palestine. Australia will recognise the right of the Palestinian people to a state of their own, predicated on the commitments Australia has received from the Palestinian Authority.
After the election, Australia moved toward recognizing the state of Palestine, a substantial shift in position that voters were told in no uncertain terms would never happen. And immigration. The claim was that net migration had been slashed by over 40%, with numbers lower than under the previous government. Critics point out that immigration has actually hit record highs during this same period. Those two claims cannot both be true at the same time, and only one of them lines up with the data. Even the economic scorecard gets murky.
So far since they were elected, Labor's presided over 15 interest rate rises. 15! And while he might be able to afford his $4 million beach home, families with an average mortgage are now paying more than $29,000 extra in interest alone per annum than they were when the Prime Minister was first elected. And that other claim, that debt is coming down, will give me a break. $964.2 billion tonight is where our national debt stands. And that doesn't even include state debt, states like the basket case of Victoria, where he's just thrown another $4 billion into the state's controversial suburban rail link, a train line to nowhere that no one wants, other than the corrupt CFMEU officials, which have siphoned off billions. How is it that just 20 years ago we were debt-free?
The Treasurer's pitch was inflation down, wages up, debt down. But look at the numbers independently. 15 interest rate rises since the last election, not cuts, and national debt sitting north of $960 billion. That's not exactly the victory lap it's being sold as. And then, almost as a cherry on top, there's Victoria's suburban rail loop, $4 billion committed to a project critics have dubbed a train line to nowhere, with plenty of that money reportedly flowing toward union interests rather than commuters actually needing a ride. So when you line all of these up side by side, negative gearing, power prices, cost of living, foreign policy, immigration figures, the economic scorecard, it stops looking like a string of unlucky coincidences. It starts looking like a pattern, and patterns, unlike accidents, are choices. So here's what I want to know from you. Is this just standard political spin every government engages in, or has this crossed into something voters should genuinely be holding to account? Sound off in the comments. Hit subscribe because we're breaking down Australian politics every single day, and I'll see you